What if I told you the future of EVs isn't just about range or horsepower, but something far more subtle? The NIO Firefly, a compact car you might underestimate, is secretly outsmarting the biggest Western EV brands. It's not about flash. It's about genius design choices you've probably never even considered, giving it an undeniable competitive edge. Forget everything you think you know about EV design, because the NIO Firefly is rewriting the rulebook. This isn't just another small electric car. It's a masterclass in engineering that discreetly puts Western EVs to shame. Prepare to have your mind blown as we unveil the hidden design secrets that make this underdog a true giant killer. Think Western EVs are still at the top of the game? Think again. In just a few moments, I'm going to show you how the NIO Firefly, a car you might have overlooked, is using brilliant understated design to subtly outmaneuver its Western competitors. If you want to understand the real innovation happening in the EV space, you need to see this. Let's talk about something that's been bothering me for years now, and I bet it bothers you too. Western automakers have been preaching the gospel of bigger batteries, longer range, and faster acceleration, as if these are the only metrics that matter. They've convinced consumers that a 400-mile range is somehow essential, even though most people drive less than 40 miles per day. This obsession has led to massive, heavy vehicles with price tags that put them out of reach for the average consumer. Meanwhile, over in China, NIO has been quietly working on something completely different with the Firefly. This compact electric vehicle isn't trying to win the spec sheet war that Western manufacturers are fighting. Instead, it's focused on solving real problems that actual drivers face every single day. The first thing you need to understand about the Firefly is its philosophy, which is radically different from what Tesla, Ford, or GM are doing. NIO looked at the urban landscape, particularly in dense Asian cities, and asked a simple question that Western automakers apparently forgot to consider. What do people actually need from a city car in 2026? The answer isn't a massive SUV that can tow a boat and drive across the country without charging. It's a nimble, efficient, affordable vehicle that makes urban life easier, not more complicated. The Firefly measures just over 4 meters in length, making it significantly smaller than a Tesla Model 3 or a Chevrolet Bolt. But here's where NIO's design genius becomes apparent, because despite its compact exterior, the interior space is shockingly generous. They've achieved this through meticulous space optimization that Western designers seem to have forgotten is possible. By pushing the wheels to the absolute corners of the vehicle and minimizing overhangs, NIO has created interior dimensions that rival vehicles in a larger class. The dashboard is incredibly thin, creating more knee room for front passengers without adding any length to the car. The floor is completely flat thanks to the skateboard battery platform, giving rear passengers actual legroom instead of the cramped quarters you'd expect. Storage spaces are cleverly integrated throughout the cabin, with door pockets that can actually hold a water bottle without it flying out on every turn. There's a thoughtful center console that doesn't intrude into the footwell, something that seems simple but is surprisingly rare in modern EVs. Western automakers have become so focused on dramatic styling and aggressive proportions that they've sacrificed the fundamental purpose of a car, which is to transport people and their belongings comfortably. The Firefly's exterior might not make you gasp when you see it on the street, but that's precisely the point. It's designed with purpose, not just to grab attention at auto shows. Every curve, every line, every detail serves a functional purpose, whether that's aerodynamic efficiency, manufacturing simplicity, or improving visibility. Speaking of visibility, let's talk about something that has somehow become a major problem in modern Western EVs. Have you noticed how difficult it is to see out of most new electric vehicles? Thick pillars, tiny windows, and swooping rooflines might look dramatic in photos, but they create massive blind spots and make parking a nightmare. The Firefly features thin A-pillars, generous glass area, and a design that prioritizes the driver's ability to actually see their surroundings. This might seem basic, but it's a perfect example of how NIO is focusing on fundamentals while Western brands chase aesthetic trends. Now, let's get to the real game changer, the feature that truly exposes how Western automakers have been thinking about EVs all wrong: battery swapping. I can already hear the skeptics saying that battery swapping has been tried before and failed, pointing to Better Place and other unsuccessful ventures. But here's the thing: NIO has actually made it work at scale, with hundreds of swap stations already operational and thousands more planned. The Firefly is designed from the ground up to support battery swapping, allowing you to exchange a depleted battery for a full one in under 3 minutes. Think about that for a moment, because the implications are absolutely massive. Western EVs force you to either install expensive home charging equipment or spend 30 minutes to an hour at a fast charging station, assuming you can find one that's working and not occupied. With the Firefly, you pull into a swap station, wait less time than it takes to fill up a gas car, and drive away with a full battery. This completely eliminates range anxiety, which is still one of the biggest barriers to EV adoption in Western markets. But the benefits go even deeper than convenience. Because the battery is swappable, NIO can offer the Firefly with a battery subscription service, drastically reducing the upfront purchase price. You buy the car without the battery and then pay a monthly fee based on your usage, which means the vehicle itself costs thousands less than comparable Western EVs. This addresses one of the fundamental flaws in the Western EV market, which is that manufacturers have been building electric cars that only wealthy people can afford. A base Model 3 costs over $40,000, and that's considered affordable in the Western EV market. The Firefly, with its battery subscription option, brings the entry price down to a level where average consumers can actually consider it. But wait, there's more brilliance to the battery swapping system that Western automakers are completely missing. Because batteries are centrally managed by NIO, they can be maintained, upgraded, and recycled far more efficiently than batteries permanently installed in vehicles. When battery technology improves, Firefly owners can simply swap to newer, better batteries without buying a whole new car. This means the vehicle you buy in 2026 can still have cutting-edge battery performance in 2030, something that's impossible with traditional EVs. Western EV owners are stuck with the battery technology from when they bought the car, watching it slowly degrade with no option to upgrade. From an environmental standpoint, this centralized battery management is also far superior to the Western approach. NIO can monitor battery health across their entire fleet, optimizing charging patterns and extending battery life. When batteries do eventually reach end of life, they're already at a centralized facility ready for recycling or repurposing, not scattered across millions of individual vehicles. The Western approach of permanently marrying batteries to vehicles creates a massive future waste problem that nobody wants to talk about. Now, let's discuss pricing in more detail, because this is where the Firefly truly exposes the inflated costs of Western EVs. The expected starting price for the Firefly in China is around $15,000, and even with battery subscription, the total cost of ownership is dramatically lower than any Western alternative. How is this possible when Western automakers claim they can barely make money on EVs at $40,000 or $50,000? The answer reveals some uncomfortable truths about Western automotive manufacturing. First, NIO has built a supply chain that's optimized for efficiency rather than supporting legacy dealer networks and profit margins. They sell directly to consumers, cutting out the middleman markup that adds thousands to the price of Western EVs. Second, their manufacturing process is highly automated and designed specifically for EVs, not adapted from internal combustion engine production lines. Western automakers are still burdened by old factories, old contracts, and old ways of thinking that inflate their costs. Third, NIO isn't trying to maintain the artificially high profit margins that Western luxury brands demand. They're playing the long game, building market share and customer loyalty rather than maximizing profit on every individual sale. The Firefly's interior is another area where NIO's different priorities become crystal clear. Instead of cramming in massive screens and complicated interfaces, the Firefly features a clean, intuitive design focused on usability. There's a central touchscreen, yes, but it's sized appropriately and positioned where you can actually reach it without stretching. Physical buttons and knobs remain for frequently used functions like climate control and volume, because NIO understands that touchscreen-only interfaces are frustrating to use while driving. Western EVs have engaged in a screen size arms race, with manufacturers seemingly competing to see who can install the biggest, most distracting display. Tesla's massive center screen requires you to dig through menus for basic functions, taking your eyes off the road for dangerous amounts of time. The Firefly's approach is more mature, recognizing that bigger isn't always better when it comes to user interface design. The materials used throughout the cabin are another pleasant surprise, with soft touch surfaces and quality fabrics that feel far more premium than the price point would suggest. Western budget EVs in a similar price range, if they existed, would likely feature hard plastics and cheap materials throughout. NIO has proven that affordability doesn't have to mean cheap, it just means smart choices about where to spend money. Let's talk about performance, because this is another area where Western EVs have lost the plot. Do you really need a compact city car that can accelerate to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds? Western manufacturers seem to think so, which is why even basic EVs come with ridiculous amounts of power that most drivers will never use. This adds cost, weight, and complexity while reducing efficiency. The Firefly offers adequate performance for its intended purpose, with enough power to merge confidently onto highways, but without the excess that serves no practical purpose. This measured approach to performance allows for a smaller battery, lighter weight, and better efficiency. We're talking about real-world range of over 200 miles from a battery pack that's significantly smaller than what you'd find in a Western EV. The efficiency comes from the Firefly's holistic design approach, where everything works together toward the goal of being a great city car. The aerodynamics are optimized not for an impressive drag coefficient number to brag about, but for real-world efficiency at city speeds. The weight is kept low through intelligent material choices and not over-engineering every component. The drivetrain is tuned for efficiency rather than maximum performance, using a smaller motor that operates in its sweet spot more often. Western EVs are typically over-engineered for edge cases, carrying around capability that adds cost and reduces efficiency for the sake of marketing claims. Another subtle but significant advantage of the Firefly is its tire size and wheel design. While Western EVs have been fitting increasingly large wheels with low-profile tires, the Firefly uses smaller wheels with taller tire sidewalls. This might not look as aggressive, but it provides a more comfortable ride, better protects the wheels from damage, and the tires are dramatically cheaper to replace. Have you priced tires for a Tesla lately? The low-profile performance tires that come on most Western EVs cost hundreds of dollars each and wear out quickly. Firefly tires will cost a fraction of that, which matters enormously to total cost of ownership. This is yet another example of NIO making practical choices that benefit the customer rather than chasing specifications that look good on paper. The charging system on the Firefly, when you do choose to charge traditionally rather than battery swap, is another thoughtful design. It supports DC fast charging at rates appropriate for its battery size, allowing for quick top-ups when needed. But unlike Western EVs that brag about extreme fast charging speeds, NIO hasn't over-engineered the system with cooling and infrastructure that most users will never need. This keeps costs down while still providing plenty of charging capability for real-world use. The onboard charger is also efficient and quiet, addressing a common complaint about EV charging equipment that many Western manufacturers have ignored. Let's discuss safety, because this is an area where Western manufacturers often claim superiority. The Firefly is built to meet stringent Chinese safety standards and includes all the active safety features you'd expect in a modern vehicle. But here's what's different. NIO hasn't used safety as an excuse to add unnecessary weight and complexity. The structure is intelligently designed to protect occupants without the excessive overbuilding that Western automakers often employ. This efficient approach to safety engineering is part of why the Firefly can be lighter and more efficient while still protecting its passengers. Western EVs often have curb weights approaching or exceeding 5,000 pounds, even for mid-size vehicles. This weight requires larger batteries for acceptable range, which adds more weight, creating a vicious cycle. The Firefly breaks this cycle by right-sizing everything, resulting in a vehicle that's light enough to be efficient while still being safe and comfortable. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room that comes up whenever Chinese EVs are discussed: quality and reliability. Western automotive media loves to perpetuate stereotypes about Chinese manufacturing, but these are increasingly outdated and borderline prejudiced. NIO has already proven with their larger vehicles that they can match or exceed Western quality standards. The ES8 and ET7 have received praise from international reviewers for build quality and reliability. The Firefly is being built in the same facilities with the same quality control processes, so there's no reason to expect anything less. Meanwhile, Western EVs have had their own quality issues that seem to get a pass in the media. Tesla's panel gaps and paint issues are well documented, yet somehow this does not undermine Western EV credibility the way any minor issue with a Chinese vehicle does. The double standard is obvious and needs to be called out. Another aspect where the Firefly demonstrates superior thinking is in its approach to software and updates. Yes, it offers over-the-air updates like Western EVs, but the software is designed to be stable and functional from day one. Western EVs, particularly Teslas, have developed a troubling pattern of releasing half-baked software and fixing it through updates. NIO's approach is more traditional in the best sense, ensuring the software works properly before the car is sold, with updates adding features rather than fixing basic functionality. The driver assistance features on the Firefly are appropriate for its market position, offering useful aids without the overpromised autonomous driving capabilities that Tesla and others have used to mislead customers. NIO hasn't called their system full self-driving or made promises they can't keep. They've simply offered practical assistance features that work as advertised. This honest approach to capability is refreshing compared to the hype cycle that Western EV companies have created. Let's talk about serviceability, because this is another hidden advantage of the Firefly's design. The modular construction and standardized components make repairs simpler and cheaper than the complex proprietary systems in many Western EVs. If something breaks, parts are readily available and procedures are straightforward, at least within NIO's service network. Western EVs often require specialized tools, proprietary diagnostic equipment, and expensive OEM parts that only dealers can install. This creates a service monopoly that inflates costs and leaves owners with few options. The battery swapping infrastructure also serves as a service network, with trained technicians and facilities already in place across the market. This distributed service capability is something Western automakers are still struggling to build out for their EV lineups. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great for China, but what about Western markets? Here's where things get really interesting, because NIO has announced plans to bring the Firefly to Europe and potentially other markets. The specifications and design philosophy that make it successful in China are actually even more relevant in European cities, where space is at a premium and efficiency matters. The battery swapping network is already being built out in select European markets, giving NIO a unique advantage over Western brands. The real question is whether Western consumers can overcome their biases and recognize the value that the Firefly represents. If they do, it could force Western automakers to fundamentally rethink their approach to EVs, which would benefit everyone. The pricing will obviously be higher in Western markets due to tariffs, shipping, and different market dynamics, but even at $20,000 to $25,000, the Firefly would undercut virtually every Western EV while offering unique advantages. This brings us to perhaps the most important point about what the Firefly represents. It's not just a good car, it's proof that the Western approach to EVs has been fundamentally flawed. For years, Western automakers told us that EVs had to be expensive, that they needed huge batteries, that they required massive screens and crazy performance. The Firefly proves that all of this was wrong, that you can make an affordable, practical, efficient EV if you're willing to challenge assumptions and focus on what customers actually need. This is why establishment automotive media and Western manufacturers are so defensive about Chinese EVs, because their success undermines the entire narrative that's been built. If NIO can sell a quality EV for $15,000, why is Tesla charging $40,000? If battery swapping can eliminate range anxiety, why have Western manufacturers ignored this solution? If compact, efficient design can meet most people's needs, why are Western brands only building massive SUVs and trucks? These are uncomfortable questions that the industry doesn't want to answer because the truth is embarrassing. Western automakers have been optimizing for profit margins and protecting legacy business models rather than truly innovating for customers. Chinese companies like NIO haven't been constrained by these legacy issues, allowing them to approach EV design with fresh thinking. The result is vehicles like the Firefly that simply make more sense for how most people actually use cars. Let's consider the environmental impact beyond just being electric, because this is another area where the Firefly's philosophy is superior. A smaller, lighter vehicle requires less materials to manufacture, less energy to operate, and will ultimately create less waste at end of life. Western EVs, particularly the massive trucks and SUVs that dominate the market, may be electric, but they're still resource-intensive behemoths. The Firefly represents a more holistic approach to sustainable transportation, reducing environmental impact through efficiency and appropriate sizing. This is the kind of thinking that should be celebrated by environmental advocates, yet Western media largely ignores it in favor of promoting domestic brands regardless of their actual sustainability. The marketing and brand positioning of the Firefly is also notably different from Western approaches. NIO isn't making outrageous claims or promising to revolutionize everything. They're simply offering a well-designed product that solves real problems. The confidence to let the product speak for itself, rather than hiding behind hype and marketing spin, is admirable. Western EV companies, particularly startups, have become experts at generating buzz without delivering substance. How many Tesla killers have been announced with flashy renders and ambitious specs, only to never materialize or arrive years late and underperforming? NIO is actually building and selling vehicles at scale, which apparently makes them less exciting to Western media than vaporware from domestic startups. The infrastructure investment that NIO has made in battery swapping also demonstrates a long-term commitment that's rare among Western EV companies. They're not just selling cars, they're building an ecosystem that makes EV ownership better. Western automakers have largely left charging infrastructure to third parties, creating a fragmented, unreliable network that frustrates customers. Tesla built their own supercharger network, which is great for Tesla owners but doesn't help the broader EV ecosystem. NIO's battery swapping stations can serve multiple vehicle models and are being opened to other manufacturers, creating a truly useful public infrastructure. This collaborative approach versus the walled garden mentality of Western companies is yet another philosophical difference that benefits consumers. As we look toward the future, the Firefly represents a template for what affordable EVs should be. Not stripped-down penalty boxes, but thoughtfully designed vehicles that prioritize the right features and eliminate wasteful excess. If Western automakers are paying attention, and they should be, the Firefly should inspire a complete rethinking of EV strategy. Unfortunately, the more likely scenario is that Western brands will lobby for protectionist tariffs and spread fear about Chinese vehicles rather than improving their own offerings. We're already seeing this playbook in action. with politicians and industry groups raising security concerns and pushing for trade barriers. While some scrutiny of connected vehicles is reasonable regardless of origin, much of the rhetoric is clearly protectionism disguised as national security. The real threat isn't to national security. It's to the profit margins and market position of Western automakers who have been overcharging for underwhelming products. Consumers deserve access to the best vehicles regardless of where they're manufactured, and the Firefly is demonstrably better value than anything Western brands currently offer in its class. In conclusion, the NIO Firefly isn't just another EV, it's a mirror being held up to Western automotive industry, and the reflection isn't flattering. It exposes how Western manufacturers have prioritized everything except what actually matters to customers trying to adopt electric vehicles. The obsession with range, performance, and technology for its own sake has created EVs that are too expensive, too complex, and poorly suited to their primary mission. The Firefly, through humble practicality and smart engineering, accomplishes more with less. It's proof that you don't need to reinvent the wheel to make a great EV, you just need to focus on fundamentals and respect your customers' actual needs. Battery swapping addresses range anxiety and affordability in ways that Western solutions can't match. Compact, efficient design reduces costs and environmental impact while still providing excellent functionality. Quality construction without excess proves that affordable doesn't mean cheap. These aren't revolutionary concepts, they're just good product design executed with competence and customer focus. The fact that Western automakers haven't delivered anything comparable despite having more resources and experience should concern everyone. It suggests that the innovation advantage has shifted, and that the future of EVs may be written in China rather than Detroit or Silicon Valley. Whether the Firefly specifically succeeds in Western markets depends on many factors beyond just product quality. But what it represents, a more thoughtful and customer-centric approach to EV design, is already winning globally. Western automakers can either learn from this and adapt, or they can continue down their current path and become increasingly irrelevant in the global EV market. For consumers, the message is clear: don't let brand loyalty or nationalism blind you to better options. The best EV for your needs might not come from the country or company you expected, and that's okay. The Firefly is just the beginning of what we'll see from Chinese EV manufacturers as they increasingly target global markets. If Western brands don't wake up and match this level of innovation and value, they'll find themselves in the same position that Western electronics manufacturers did when Japanese and Korean companies ate their lunch. History doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes, and the automotive industry is playing a familiar tune. The question now is whether you're going to pay attention to what's actually happening in the EV market, or believe the comfortable narrative that Western brands are still leading. The NIO Firefly is here to challenge your assumptions, and if you're honest about what you're seeing, those assumptions probably need challenging. This isn't about picking sides or rooting for one country over another. It's about recognizing genuine innovation and demanding better from all manufacturers. The competition that vehicles like the Firefly bring to the market will ultimately benefit everyone through better products and lower prices. Unless, of course, protectionism prevents that competition, in which case Western consumers will continue overpaying for inferior products. The choice isn't really up to you individually, but collectively, consumer awareness and demand for value can influence policy and manufacturer behavior. So spread the word, share this information, and don't let the automotive establishment control the narrative about what EVs should be. The future of transportation is being written right now, and it looks a lot more like the Firefly than the oversized, overpriced EVs that Western manufacturers want you to buy. Thanks for watching, and if this video opened your eyes to what's really happening in the EV market, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who's considering an electric vehicle. The truth about EV innovation deserves to be heard, even if it's not what the established players want you to know.